Breaking, Army Rangers killed important ISIS head, look who it is. The head of the Islamic State's Afghan affiliate was killed in an April 27 raid that cost the lives of 2 U.S. Army Rangers, the Pentagon announced Monday. The raid was jointly run by the U.S. and Afghan National Security Forces and killed 35 additional ISIS fighters. The Pentagon is also investigating whether the 2 Army Rangers were killed by friendly fire. Military officials described a chaotic scene, where multiple U.S. fire supports were called in as the terrorist group mounted a fierce resistance. This is the second ISIS-K emir we have killed in 9 months, along with dozens of their leaders and hundreds of their fighters. For more than 2 years, ISIS-K has waged a barbaric campaign of death, torture and violence against the Afghan people, especially those in southern Nangarhar, U.S. Army General John Nicholson said in a statement on the attack. Nicholson continued, "Any ISIS member that comes to Afghanistan will meet the same fate." The U.S. also noted the terrorist leader played a lead role in organizing a massive March attack on an Afghan army hospital, which killed dozens. The U.S. has significantly escalated its campaign against ISIS in Afghanistan in the early months of the Trump administration, including dropping its largest non-nuclear bomb on the group's headquarters in mid-April. ISIS has proven resilient despite this uptick in raids and airstrikes. The group only controls a relatively small amount of territory in eastern Afghanistan but has adeptly used it to plan complex attacks on the Afghan National Security Forces. The Trump administration is considering sending thousands more troops to Afghanistan to support the Afghan National Security Forces. These forces are engaged in a brutal struggle on multiple fronts against both ISIS and the Taliban insurgents, who now control approximately 1/3 of the country's population. Breaking, little Kim Jong-un just woke up to a nasty surprise in his backyard parked there by Trump overnight. President Trump is very much of a go big or go home kind of guy. Or if you prefer the more slang, you could say that he's got no chill. North Korea is learning that lesson the hard way since their petulant toddler of a leader in a bad suit decided to get into a turf war with the commander-in-chief of the free world. By the way, the turf they're in a war over is everything between here and there, which is a pretty good piece of property, and chances are that we all live on some piece of it. There are people who are concerned that the president might not have the diplomacy needed to be the president of the United States, and just how diplomatic he is remains to be seen. So far he's been all stick and no carrot, but it seems to have been working okay for him and us. To that end, when the irritable and childlike Kim Jong-un refused to work with any of the international agencies trying to keep the world safe from just such people as himself, President Trump decided to give him an up-close and personal show of what a real Navy looks like and how the big boys move their nukes around. This show of force isn't all for show. The president has made it clear that he'll go to whatever means necessary to keep the country, and the world, safe. Via CNN Wire. The USS Michigan, a guided missile submarine, arrived in South Korea for what a U.S. defense official described as a show of force amid tensions between the U.S. and North Korea. The U.S. Navy sub arrived in the port city of Busan, South Korea, on the same day that North Korea celebrates the 85th anniversary of the founding of the Korean People's Army. A statement from U.S. Naval Forces Korea called the sub's visit routine and said it was a chance to highlight the alliance between the U.S. and South Korean navies. While the USS Michigan is not expected to take part in the joint exercises, its presence in the region is meant to send a strong message to Pyongyang. U.S. President Donald Trump told Fox Business Network's Maria Bartiromo earlier this month that the U.S. was sending an armada with submarines to the region. "We are sending an armada. Very powerful," Trump told Bartiromo. "We have submarines. Very powerful. Far more powerful than the aircraft carrier. That I can tell you." Analysts at the time suspected Trump might be referring to Ohio-class subs like the Michigan. Armed with tactical missiles and equipped with superior communications capabilities, the Michigan is one of 4 U.S. Navy subs that began service as a ballistic missile submarine, loaded with nuclear missiles as part of the U.S. strategic nuclear deterrent. The 560-foot-long Michigan is one of 4 converted Ohio-class subs, joining the USS Ohio, USS Florida and USS Georgia. The Michigan's visit to Pusan comes after North Korea on Sunday threatened to sink the American aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson, which is beginning joint drills with two Japanese destroyers in the western Pacific Ocean. The Vinson will be joined by the Ashigara and Samud air destroyers in tactical training drills near the Philippines, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force said. North Korea's state-run newspaper Rodong Sinmun said in an editorial the country is ready to illustrate its military force by sinking a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier with a single strike. The North Korean state newspaper claimed to have weaponry that can reach continental US and Asia-Pacific region and the absolute weapon, or a nuclear hydrogen bomb. CNN cannot independently verify the newspaper's claims. I'm sorry if you're liberal and the president doesn't look the way you want him to look, or sound the way you want him to sound. I'm sorry for you if you're so caught up in how a person makes you feel that you're incapable of seeing the good that he can possibly do for future, or even current, generations. But I'm not sorry that Donald J. Trump is the president, and I'm not sorry that he's got enough backbone to know that this is one dictator that he can't back down from. So maybe his personality isn't one that knows how to tread softly, but it is one that you'd want to have your back in a fight. I'm just glad that unlike a former leader, this president has actually got America's back, his back. Alert, warning just released of North Korea's secret weapon which is over us now and could wipe US off the planet. There's many malicious people out there who are actively plotting to take the United States down. While most of us are fully aware of how terrorists are infiltrating our country while posing as refugees, there's an even more terrifying thing we should be concerned with that top military brass and experts are asserting is a very real possibility that can kill 75% of the US population. Several weeks ago, we brought you the disturbing story how top Air Force brass were holding intel briefings where they revealed that America's enemies are actively looking for a way to shut our country down by using an EMP, electromagnetic pulse explosion. While it's highly alarming in of itself that our military are even discussing this as a real possibility, now a Homeland Security expert is coming forward with a dire warning about North Korea's plans, after what Kim Jong-un's satellite systems were just caught orbiting our country. There's many malicious people out there who are actively plotting to take the United States down. While most of us are fully aware of how terrorists are infiltrating our country while posing as refugees, there's an even more terrifying thing we should be concerned with that top military brass and experts are asserting is a very real possibility that can kill 75% of the US population. Several weeks ago, we brought you the disturbing story how top Air Force brass were holding intel briefings where they revealed that America's enemies are actively looking for a way to shut our country down by using an EMP, electromagnetic pulse explosion. While it's highly alarming in of itself that our military are even discussing this as a real possibility, now a Homeland Security expert is coming forward with a dire warning about North Korea's plans, after what Kim Jong-un's satellite systems were just caught orbiting our country. This is nothing short of chilling. What makes an EMP attack unique is that it's the perfect asymmetric weapon for state actors such as North Korea to level the playing field by immediately taking out the great technical advantage that the US military possesses in just a single blow. What's nerve-wracking however is that we aren't really sure what North Korea's capabilities are, as their military capabilities have long been shrouded in secrecy. Vigatestone Institute. Even an EMP attack from a single 10-kiloton nuclear weapon, of the type now in North Korea's arsenal, could cause cascading failures which could black out the US eastern grid for months or years, and devastate the civilian economy. An EMP, detonated at an altitude above 30-70 kilometers, could be delivered by a short-range missile fired off a freighter, hundreds of kilometers off US shores. Last week, experts said they doubted tests of such devices in the past were largely anticlimactic, and failed to produce the widespread electrical disruption that's been predicted over the years. Nuclear non-proliferation expert Jeffrey Lewis said claims of societal collapse as a result of a North Korea EMP attack were silly. The expert points to a test conducted by the US in 1962 known as Starfish Prime. At the time, the researchers launched a missile roughly 400 kilometers, 248 miles, above the Pacific Ocean to see how a high-altitude attack, which would trigger an electromagnetic pulse, would affect military equipment. The bomb was about 100 times larger than the one dropped on Nagasaki, but apart from stunning visuals, the test was a disappointment, Lewis writes. While some have claimed that Starfish Prime had dramatic effects down below, shutting off lights across millions of square miles and turning off cars, the expert says there was no evidence to support this. Instead, just one string of street lights failed in Honolulu.